discuss two books by Alice Faz. Um, One was published um, taking account of her life after she got married to Faz, and the second one has just come out. It's called Dear Heart. It's her letters to Faz, which was earlier published but re-edited and published again. Rahman Saab should tell us what was there that should have attracted Alice to Faz in that first meeting.
I think Mrs. Faz has given a full and graphic account of their days together in Amritsar, where Mr. Tasir was the principal of Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College and Faz Saab was lecturer in English. And if I recall correctly, it is all written all over my shoulder, that Alice was attracted by Faz's shyness to begin with. She was intrigued that a person who was admitted to the company of Mahmud Zafar and Rashid Jahan and Dr. Tasir, how could he be so quiet and living within himself? So she started, probing the silence of this strange young person. And that silent person actually fell in love much earlier than Alice did. See? To the extent of becoming jealous of somebody who was making advances to her. See? And telling her to keep away from this fellow. Then, they discovered that they had similar outlook on life. You see, Mrs. Faz had started working at a very early age. And she was already a committed Marxist and communist, and she had been working with Krishna Menon in London, so she was already a convert to India's cause for freedom. So the outlook on life and the interest in people's freedom and building a new society, which Faz Saab of course knew, having read Communist Manifesto given by Rashid Jahan. So I think this was the bond that developed.
Maheen, who's edited the book of letters, Dear Heart.
Over my shoulder, actually.
Over my shoulder, sorry. What happened in the early days of their relationship from Amritsar onwards? What happened and when did they decide to get married?
She doesn't go into very much detail. You just get, Faz Saab is still a very elusive character in the entire book. There are just sentences here and there about what the relationship was like, and she says, little did we know. And she talks of when they, obviously, Faz Saab's family was not entirely happy about the marriage, and it took quite a while for them to be able to persuade his parents that this was a good match. And as she says, we had much in common, but our love had not yet been tested. A lot of her earlier reminiscences are about how she managed to make herself accepted. The fact that this is an English woman who is suddenly in a trilingual family. The differences between Faz Saab's relatively conservative family and Alice's upbringing in a left-wing Marxist family. The contrast is something that she tried very hard to work with. And she remembers, for example, the wedding. She remembers the sari that she wore, and this confusion of relatives. And as she puts it, of course, because one of the things in this whole book is that no matter how dire the circumstances, she will find humor. And as she says, one of the standard features of the wedding was the neurotic sister-in-law who had a fainting fit after the wedding, and there was a great deal of wailing and crying, and I think that the sister had to be sort of slapped like this too, and everyone calmed down. But she took it in her stride. She took it very much in her stride.
And when Tasir got transferred, I think from Amritsar to Simla, at that point she had this connection with Faiz and his shyness, but she was teaching at school, some school, and then Simla also she continued. But when she went to Simla with the Tasir family, I think Faiz came to Lahore and was teaching at Haley College at a salary of 150 rupees.
That's it.
And then what happened? How did they get together again? I think it happened in Lahore. Or what?
Ultimately, the courtship was in Amritsar, and they honeymooned in Srinagar, and then came back to Lahore just around the time of partition. But you mentioned the 150 rupees. As always, very English, very pragmatic. It was, how will we work out this living on 150 rupees a month? And can I make it as a poor man's wife? There are doubts, but she does find ways to overcome them.
Yeah, Raman Sahab, she came into a family which was very conservative and religiously orthodox, Faiz Saab's own family. And she was a kind of meme who had come into the family. And how did she, as you read the book, how did she actually get used to this kind of environment?
She got used to it bit by bit, and I think not completely, ever. Because she remained a Brit to the end of her life, in several respects. But the family, in spite of being conservative, had abundance of love. Faiz's mother, was such a loving person, and she cared about everybody to such an extent that she became the shield under which Alice could try to come to terms with all the. She makes in the Over My Shoulder. She writes with a great deal of humor and wit, about the ways of the natives here, and how young girls would come and see when they were living in Bagmuthi, Ladha, near Ravi. Women will peep over the wall and see what the Angrez Bibi was doing, and then the girls will come and probe her fingernails and she had some difficulty. And she was very fond of one niece because she taught her how to use local costume, you see. And but it's a very practical person, coming to terms with. And it was not a question of spending a few days with them, because they shifted to a new house, and Faiz's family, mother and others, were also living with them. As regards 150, she explains that some help came from the village, grain and ghee and these things, and some other assistance was given by somebody.
Mahind, is there a comparison in the book that you have edited between the two daughters? Because in her letters she is constantly talking about the two daughters, and that's how she relates herself to Faiz, who's also writing letters to her. Is there a comparison in the sense that we can arrive at her preference? Who was the preferred daughter, so to speak?
The daughters don't figure as much in Over My Shoulder as do her grandchildren. Which she talks about Puniza in terms of the sort of problems she had as being a left-handed child at school, and the fact that the principal made her tie her hand behind her back, which was fairly traumatic. But for me, what was interesting was the length at which she talks about her grandchildren. And it isn't that she necessarily takes them by name. So she'll refer to her granddaughter as, there's a story called A Tribute to Long Plate, and this is about Meera. And it's noticing the little things that if there's a preference, Khalil Saab, the preference is that her granddaughter was by far a favorite. easily. That comes across very much so.
Rahman Saab,
Like this question, um, from the letters, one feels that although Mrs. Faiz was very fond of Chimi and very happy with the progress that she was making in her studies, and sometimes angry with her because she could run off to Mission Road and spend the night there. But it is Mizu who gets more mention.
Absolutely.
See? Because of her way of saying very strange things, putting many questions. For instance, she one day asked, what is meant by 4 years? Is it that simple as that? And then also her being an extrovert, when Mr. Soravardi says that who will he dance with? So Mizu says, I will dance with you, and Mrs. Faiz notes that there was not much difference because Soravardi was short and Mizu was growing up, and they could take a few rounds in the room. So Mizu gets, because she was learning something every day. And that process of learning every day was reportable. So the smaller children often, get the better of the elder ones because the elder daughter soon becomes a rival. That's the problem.
Actually, she describes Salima as kind of romantic and withdrawn, and she words the use airy-fairy. But Mizu is quicksilver, and she adds the phrase, she's like me. So there is definitely an identification of the mother with the younger daughter, because she's constantly knocking at the door, constantly asking questions, and she has new formulations to actually offer in a situation which is constantly changing. Rahman Saab, what would you say about this period of struggle when she says she sold the car and she bought a bicycle, and then she would go from she lived near Simla Pahadi and not far from here, and she would bicycle her way to the Pakistan Times, where she edited a magazine page. Do you recall those years?
Oh, yes. And she has also described those days in considerable detail. You see, she had a number of assignments. She was perhaps at that time the most hard-working member of the Pakistan Times staff, along with Mr. Mia Nizamdeen. She used to prepare correspondence bills. Each and every contribution that was made to Pakistan Times had to be tabulated and a statement sent to the contributor. And those who were writing by space, their contribution had to be measured, 6 inches, 9 inches, half a column and so on and so forth, and calculated and a statement made. And each and every month. Quite a donkey's job. Then she was editing the women's page. When you read both these books together, she was doing several things in London. When Faiz Saab went there after winning the Lenin Prize and she was looking for a job, she started teaching in a school for special children. Similarly, when they were living in Karachi, she started teaching at Bembi. So I think it was very difficult for her to keep herself away from work. Different kinds of work. There was a young reporter, who was very fond of inviting himself to coffee in Mrs. Faiz's room. And one day he said, Mrs. Faiz, Mr. Faiz used to call me his son. Such blunt things. I am not responsible for Faiz's wild oats.
And once she went to the hospital to give blood in an emergency case. She came back, more blood was needed, so she approached, in the Pakistan Times, there was this Bhatt Saab, who was a weightlifter.
Yes,
I
yes.
think everybody knows that. And she says, why didn't you come with me and give your blood? And he says, I'm
And
very...
she chicken. And he chicken.
He said, I may look very strong, but inside I'm very
Linguistic.
weak. Mahin, there is another story about the car that
They kept insisting, yes,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's a Russian car bought with Russian money. And Alice kept saying, well, it's not. But at that point, no one was willing to believe her. And I think it's about the same time that she talks about when the CID would come and raid the house. And at one point, there was a midnight raid, and they realized they had a bottle of beer in the house. They realized, so she said to herself, well, we can't do anything about the elections, but we could do something about the bottle of beer. And they went off and hid the beer. But even those what she calls the rummage, they would come and rummage in the house and upturn all the books. But even that she retells with a certain kind of a humor, where she says that even there was one of the books they picked up was called A People's History of England, because there was the idea that any book that had the word people in it was automatically suspect.
And then this story about the car was Hillman Minks, and she got it after her father died and left her some money, and she imported it from, it is a typical British car. And then, of course, the intelligence bureau changed the story. It said, of course, the car could be British, but the money
The money
was
is Russian.
actually Russian. And he says, we know that at one point, Faiz actually went to the Russian embassy and deposited a suspect bag there in which there were lots of Pakistani secrets. I to this day, I don't know what the Pakistani secrets are.
This was also Hafiz's story.
And then, there was some inspector called Anwar Ali or something. He kept saying that, I think the car has been bought with Russian money, and the whole thing is very suspect. But the fact is that, going back to her letters, I think there was extreme suffering because she fell ill sometimes. Of course, children fall ill seasonally, whenever the season changes, things happen. And at times she actually is very near breaking down. And she says, okay, I will write to you, but at times I don't have the strength to write anymore. She was sending money to Faiz, who at times needed money back there. And the only thing he contributed with was writing poems. And normally people paid 50 rupees for a poem. But some people close to Faiz would pay about 30 or pay 20 and says, I'll pay another 10 rupees later on. And then I think it was Daste Sabah which helped her a little bit. But even then, she complains that 500 rupees a month was promised. No, 100 rupees were promised, but only 30 rupees were delivered. So she was quite hard up. I think there is a lot of reference to what she went through.
An extremely difficult struggle. It began with the notice from the authorities that you vacate the house. Yeah? They were living on near radio station. And then she had to fight her case, and then they agreed that, okay, the eviction will not take place, but she will have to pay rupees 100 as rent. Now, paying 100 rupees as rent, in those days was something. But you will notice that she would complain of lack of resources to be able to go and see him. I cannot come to Hyderabad because I don't have wherewithal. But she never complained of lack of money when it came to having books for Faiz, or preparing clothes for him, or sending him a new sweater as the winter was coming, or that you need some money for yourself. Because when earlier on, when they were being tried, they were under one rule. Uh, this old law said that the detainees' families will get something, on that period, and she had to fight for that. But when he had been convicted, his status changed, and he needed more money at that time, and she never complained. She kept on sending, and she is so particular about it that when the Eid came, and somebody, of course, our press in charge, Qadir Shah, gave 10 rupees each to the girls.
This Qadir Shah was who?
He was in charge of printing.
Yeah, she mentioned it
Yes,
particularly
yes.
because she was very hard
Yeah,
up.
yes. And
These
then
10 rupees.
she was not a very rich man. He was a foreman type of person.
Amazing.
He was in charge of the night shift permanently. And then and he gave 10 rupees each to, and he protested. That why do you do that? And she mentioned specifically that your daughters are richer by 65 rupees. So, and then, but you must have noticed that the girls never stopped getting their pocket money.
Yes.
Her priorities were right. They pocket money, they go there. And she sometimes took them to cinema. Once she took them for ice cream in Argentina or Sudan, I don't remember now. And then she writes, my budget is destroyed for the whole month. So extreme difficulties, but faced with great deal of fortitude and pride. No compromises.
There is another question I want to ask you on this. What was his relationship with those who were ideologically opposed to him? For instance, it's very interesting that his relationship with Hamid Nizami was very different from the other relationships, and she mentions constantly that family coming to the help of Faiz's family.
See, most of the people she mentions as being helpful to her are people from the other side.
That's very interesting.
Because people on this side were poor and suspected. Hamid Nizami, you see, because Hamid Nizami came forward to help her in the sense that he will take books to Hyderabad or send them to there, or because of something which she did not know, perhaps she had not mentioned, because Faiz Saab and Hamid Nizami, they were the leaders of the editors in Lahore who had formed the council. And they were also trustees of the APP. PTI, right was changed into APP. So they had some relationship in spite of the ideological gulf dividing them. Similarly, Gurmani,
Yeah, Gurmani.
because Faiz Saab and Gurmani had been together in Delhi with the British war effort, so they had a special relationship. So she mentioned that Gurmani has invited us for this thing. But you see, with other people, she, as I said, she did not spare words when they were to be called what they were. But she had, for instance, Anwar Ali.
The cartoonist?
Many Anwar Ali, Mia Anwar Ali, DIG, CID.
The DIG.
He also gets mentioned. But while Alice controls herself, Mizus tells him what he is. Similarly, there is a jailer, who comes and sends, who reads their
The
letters, and knowing that the letters are being censored, she won't mind writing the intelligence people, the censored people while they're doing this. No, actually, although there was a difference between Faiz and Alice, because Faiz would forget what Nawab was writing or what he was being called by XYZ, But Alice didn't. I mean, she won't forgive. eh? She won't forgive. She kept her distance, and but she got along. Shafi, for instance.
Shafi, I was going to mention that.
Shafi also. Um,
Shafi's were pretty hard in his reports on.
yes, yes, yes. Shafi was doing all that. But when if Afaq, which was the joint venture of Shafi and Muhammad Sarwar, they wrote something nice about Faiz, she acknowledged that she had written something good.
Mimshin. Yeah. Marina, Mahin, what is the most important, the high water mark of your editing in the book, which you actually liked very much?
Honestly, I think it's stylistic. It's the whole book is about how you remember things. It starts with an anecdote from her childhood about her grandmother, and she remembers brushing her grandmother's long hair. And she dips between anecdotes from her childhood to her travels as a young girl in Italy and Paris. She talks at length about their time in Beirut. But even in her reportage, when describing, okay, so-and-so, thousands were killed or whatever, she sees the minutiae. She sees what happens after, what happens to the people left behind. If you've had a report of the phalangists attacking in Lebanon, she will pick up the detail about the old man rocking in his rocking chair on the terrace. She'll pick up the detail about the woman weeding her garden, the people left behind. These are not the usual things that come across in historical accounts. She sees the individual, and that's what you remember. And that goes for all the people she meets. I think one of the most poignant stories she tells of someone, of Bade Mian, who worked at their house and worked there for many years, and ultimately they let go of him because things began disappearing from the house. It turned out not to be him, but it had put a distance between them. Ultimately, when they rehired Bade Mian, they looked after him. He was growing very old. And she says, at last his strength claimed him. And Faiz Saab said, I thought he would last forever. And her one line is at the end of that chapter, we thought that Faiz too was forever because he died the same year. But her ability to empathize with anyone, irrespective of class or nationality, perhaps being an outsider helped her do that, because she was English and yet she adopted Lahore and Lahore adopted her. And perhaps that gives her a vantage point that we don't have as belonging here.
I think it's time that I took out a little extract from a letter that she wrote. I think at this point I might as well read it. She went through a lot of pain. I think she describes Faiz also, the poet of pain. In December 1952, which was I think the most intense period of suffering, because she was hard up financially. People were selling Faiz's books into third, fourth editions, but they were not paying up on time. But there was this moment of strength, and I think her words are very important here. She says, "My heart is now at peace, my mind at rest, and come what may, I have courage, fortitude, the warm comfort of your love, and the strength and joy which comes with the knowledge of one's innocence, belief in the future, and the constant vision of an unchanging truth. How much we have to live for, hoping that justice will prevail, and let those found wanting in the test tremble, for they must meet their Maker. Home is as sweet as ever, but for your empty chair, but I carry you in my heart, and hope is high, and the days are few, and this long uncertainty will soon be over one way or the other. and then our roads shall meet again, and we shall turn our faces towards the dawn of a new happy day. I think, this is not only, a belief and love for Faiz, but also a belief in what Faiz actually believed. So the reference to the strength in her lines is to the ideology which he embraced and which all of us actually now acknowledge, because he was definitely, out of the big five, the last one. I think if you look, Anis, Mir, Ghalib, Iqbal and Faiz, and that is how you count your big poets. The only difference is that, whereas Iqbal was longing for power, for dominance, Faiz was longing for the ability to bear up under the dominance of others. And I think that is why he lives with us. He has proven to be more powerful as a poet because he was a poet who was willing to suffer the power of others rather than gain power and impose some kind of control on others.
And with grace under pressure.
And?
With grace under pressure.
Grace under pressure. Rahman Sahib, you want to say something about Faiz's overall influence on us, on how we have received him and how his status has been retained through the years?
Well, we do derive inspiration from Faiz's life and work, both, in moments of trial. So he has been described, and rightly described, as a companion in solitude. That his words and work inspire you to carry on, to go on carrying on. But unfortunately, the communication and the level of education in our country is not yet up to that rank that his message should be reaching. But much better testimony of his influence on us than the fact that all tyrants of today quote him. Yes. And labor also quotes him, employers also quote him, rulers quote him, opposition quotes him. But apart from that, the world view, which is also the view of the whole society in which we are living in, is important, because he was not a poet of this aspect or that aspect, but he took in his writing the entire view of the thing. But I would like to add one thing about Mrs. Faiz, about the over my shoulder. You see, we meet several aspects of Alice's life. The first part is biographical. She tells me another story. Then she becomes an observer of events. She is reporting from all this. Some of the dispatches from Mongolia, for instance, or Vietnam and Cambodia, where she saw the killing fields, they were pieces that provided information to our people, because we didn't know what was happening there. And then her letters from Beirut, which were regularly published here. So it becomes. And then she also had this quality of a writer. For instance, her sketch of Bade Mian is a great literary piece. How she describes it, and I cannot forget her way of ending it. That when he died, Faiz said, "We thought he was forever," and the same year Faiz left us, and we thought he was forever. Yeah. So that way, this tenderness, this poetic expression that came. So we find, in these two books, if we take them together, a woman of many parts, and it is very difficult to decide, who influenced whom. Very difficult, you see, because women who live under the shadow of very famous and accomplished husbands often do not get their due.
That's right.
You see? But I must say, Mrs. Faiz, earned her place in history in her own right.
That's right. At one point when Faiz was in jail in Hyderabad and she was constantly writing to him, and she knew that he would wait for the letters especially about the two girls. And in one letter, she simply mentions that now my father is very ill. And then a couple of months after that, he actually died, and there's just little reference. The stoicism, the hardness of the woman is also very much there. But I think Faiz had cast a spell on him. The Faiz who was shy, withdrawing, not aggressive. He's not going to walk across the floor and say, I'm attracted to you. He was not like that. But she fell for that. And I think that was a loyalty which never really died. And she was a great human being, there is absolutely no doubt. And when we come to the end of these two books, she has actually succeeded in leaving behind for us, an image of herself which is extraordinary, of a woman who was not really an ordinary woman. That's
and who
true.
lived in times that were also not ordinary, but she was up to that challenge.
Absolutely.
Although she made every effort to efface herself.
Yes,
See,
yes.
She made every effort. But, you see, they had two different kinds of strengths. Faiz in his philosophy, in his bearing as a stoic. Alice as a strong person, with a strong strength. In her letters she mentions, I'm now better now, and I've regained my strength to face everything that is going on.
But even with that, even with this, she ends, I think perhaps which encapsulates what you're talking about, her self-effacement. She says, I am no hero, but I have known heroes, which really just downplays her strength throughout all those years. But that is what comes
She
across.
could tease him also sometimes. Khalisa, she could tease him sometimes. When she became well known as a journalist, she said, now you have to take care of yourself because this world has no room for two of us.
I think now there are some visuals that people want to see.
We know Alice Faiz as a wife and a mother. We hardly know of her as being among the first women to nudge at the glass ceiling and excel as what we often patronizingly refer to as a working woman in Pakistan. She fell in love with Faiz in Amritsar, India. Their mutual love of Shakespeare brought them together.
छोटी सी बरात थी, तीन आदमी थे, एक तो फैज साहब and his younger brother Inayat and a political friend. They arrived in the evening, tired and dusty. तो पहले मैंने फैज से पूछा था, आप अंगूठी लेके आए हैं? तो क्या जरूर लेके आया हूँ. मैंने कहा तुम्हारे पास पैसे कहाँ थे? तुम्हारे पास पैसे भी नहीं थे. तो कहने लगे मैंने इफ्तिखारुद्दीन से कर्ज लिया था. खैर वापस तो देना नहीं मैंने. तो मैंने कहा साइज का पता था? कहने लगी हाँ तुम्हारी जैसी. तो मैंने ट्राई किया था, नहीं मैंने ट्राई नहीं किया. मैंने कहा नो दैट्स बैड लक टू ट्राई बिफोर द मैरिज. तो आई डिडंट ट्राई द रिंग. शाम को दावत हुई थी, बहुत बड़ी दावत हुई थी और इसलिए के बहुत से शायर लोग आए हुए थे. एक में शायरा भी हुआ था.
Her commitment to Faiz made her move to Pakistan, a place she adopted as her home. Her love for Faiz was put through a trying time when he was put behind bars in 1951. Not only did she become his rock, emotionally, she also became his patron.
बहुत देर की बात है, लेकिन ऐसे मालूम होता कि कल की बात थी। सुबह के वक्त था, कोई 5 बजे, और कुछ आवाज़ आई थी नीचे से, तो मैं उठी थी। हम ऊपर वाले फ्लैट में रहते थे ना, so I got up and I looked over the veranda, and there I saw about 50 armed policemen. तो मैंने फैज से कह दिया ये कोई रेड हो रहा है, किस लिए? तो उन्होंने कहा मुझे नहीं पता। उस ज़माने में 1951 पंजाब के इलेक्शंस हो रहे थे, तो उन्होंने सोचा कि किसी वजह से गिरफ्तार करने आए थे। तो हमारे ऊपर वाले फ्लैट था, तो हम नीचे जाके दरवाज़ा खोल दिया, तो वो ऊपर आए थे। They all stood at attention all the way around the flat, everywhere. Opened the doors and pushed in. तो मैंने उनसे पूछा था कि आपके कोई वारंट है सर्च करने के लिए? तो कहने लगे वारंट तो आ ही जाएगा। मैंने कहा दिखा दे, तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं हमारे इस वक्त कोई नहीं है। तो then the DIG or whatever he was, I don't remember, he came. तो उसने कहा था कि वो फैज साहब कहाँ है? तो फैज साहब निकले, वो ज़रा सा कुछ पहन के, शॉल पहन के आए थे। मार्च 9 था। तो ने पूछा था कि आपको ले जाने के लिए आए हैं। तो फैज ने पूछा था what for, what have I done? he said आपको पता लग जाएगा।
All the pettinesses and jarrings have gone, and I love now for what I believe to be right and honest. It seems now that I shall have to cope with the expenses of the trial. I hope that you are well. The journey together to your fortress. We need the trip to laugh a little. There have been enough tears, as you say, and we have none left. Your book is now going into a second edition. It has gone very well indeed. Bless you, dearest heart, and when the President makes his announcement, my hand will be in yours, and I shall press it gently. Nothing else will matter. The rest is love and waiting, and the future and its dreams. And when I water the green shoots each morning, I do weep a little for the magic and beauty of it all. And then I don't have to weep for your lonely girls and separation, for father or for your mother, or for years lost and dreary work unending. Because tears which might have been shed in sadness have been shed for the joy of what we live for, whether for green shoots. The CID has described me as Faiz Ahmed Faiz, female.
She was not just a prolific writer and a vociferous activist, she was also a fierce believer in women's and children's rights. The woman behind Faiz was Alice. The person behind Alice was herself.
कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं, कब हाथ में तेरा हाथ नहीं, कब याद में तेरा साथ नहीं, कब हाथ में तेरा हाथ नहीं.
I think your children will be among those without stigmas. They have never seen us cheating, being corrupt, or even lying.
अपनी रातों में अब हिज्र की कोई रात नहीं.
We are just waiting for you to return from across the darkness of separation. We shall have so much to make up, so much to remember, so much to forget.
Alice Faiz died on March 12, 2003, and has been laid to rest next to Faiz Ahmed Faiz in Model Town, Lahore, the city of the Lawrence Gardens she loved so much. Theirs was perhaps the most endearing love story of this era.
कब याद में तेरा शुक्र के अपनी रातों में अब हिज्र की कोई